So in this video, we're going to create a keyboard, and we've actually already seen in this series of videos how you can open up the iOS keyboard. But what I have in mind is something that looks a little bit more like, well, there's the screen for it. Here it is, a kind of virtual keyboard, and this one actually has way too many buttons on it. We're just going to work with the letters and the numbers. So let's go and just duplicate one of our files that we already have. Doesn't matter which, really. We're just going to delete everything out. So just go over here, File, Duplicate, and we'll call this keyboard, not keyboard. There it is. And as usual, be sure that you actually go and deselect something, then reselect it, just to be sure you're editing the one you think that you are. And I'm just going to select everything. So that's Command A if you want to select everything. And we'll just toss it all out. And then I'm just going to drag back in the top menu. Okay, so let's pull a color sprite down here. And I've got two nice images here, keyboard, keys, and then in the back of that, just one called keyboard screen. There it is. Okay, let's set the Z position to about -100 on that. Might need to move that up a little bit, and then I guess we can leave that at 0. I don't really need to interact with the keyboard itself, but I'm going to just name that so I can parent some things to it. Keyboard screen. There we go. And let's add a few labels on here. So what we'll end up doing is asking people to basically retype a word that we're going to randomly set, which as you can imagine for a kids game is very important because you don't want to make a new page every time you want to kind of prompt them to type in a word, right? So using this one page, we could have them, we could basically say, all right, this time around type out the word cosmos, or this time around type out the word space. So every time they go to it, it's at least a new word that they have to try to type in. So I've got a nice little font tucked in here. It's actually a free one. It's called BM Germer. If this wasn't being so slow, I could probably find it a little bit quicker. There we go. One more swipe up, we should find it. There it is. It's a great little computery type font. I'm going to set the size up a bit bigger. There we go. 96 should work. So what we'll type in here is retype about this word. So kind of arrange that. And I'm just going to call this prompt. All right, so now let's zoom in a little bit. Now the line below, what we're going to do is call this about password label. Maybe even let's call this random password label. We don't need to type anything in there initially, but I'll just put a couple dots in. So again, when the scene loads up, this is going to be a random password that they need to retype, and then we want to show them down here what they're actually typing. So let's call this password attempt label. And again, just I'll leave that in there. Actually, I suppose for this one I should leave this as nothing. But it is still in there, even though you can't. There it is. You can't see it. You can select it though. All right, so head over to the property list, and we call that keyboard. So let's go ahead and just copy out one of our other pages and rename it to be keyboard. And let's see what we'll keep from here. Under events, we do want to set some values. We're going to change that a little bit though. Settings we'll probably leave alone. Elements, let's go ahead and just take everything out of here. Labels, we are going to have some labels in there, obviously. We just created them. So let's go ahead and name these. So we've got our random password label, and then our password attempt label. Okay, don't need to, I mean we could, but we don't need to prefix those, but we do want them to have a text with saved value. So the text with saved value for this one is going to be our random password. So we're going to have to set that over here. And then the text will say value for the password attempt. What better saved value or variable than password attempt, right? And then for event listeners, we're definitely going to have some of these in here, but let's worry about that later. Essentially, what we're going to do is match our random password to our password attempt. Okay, so for setting the values for our random password, this is a little bit of a different property. We're going to change this to set random values. So just type the word random in there, unfold that, and the first thing that we're going to do is just put in here our random password. So this is what it's going to get set. And then previously when we've been setting values, we'd put a value in here. This time around, what we're going to do is use what are called pools in the kit, which are usually meant for randomizing things. So this is going to be the name of a pool. All right, so what's a pool? Well, if you look down here in the root of the kit, you can have, and I actually already set this up, I forgot to delete it, but you can have an array full of just random things, whatever it is, and these might be pages to jump to. In this case, it's obviously just random strings that are gonna be things that the kids are supposed to retype. So as I was testing this, I just had some very simple ones, but let's put in here things like cosmos, stars, spaceship, and we'll put one more in. How about aliens? All stuff that kids might want to retype, right? Okay, so the pool name is going to be random passwords. I'm just going to make it plural, but very similar to the value that we're going to set. So all we're going to do is just put this right over here, and you know what? So maybe it's a little bit more obvious. How about random passwords pool? So you just at a glance, you can see that that's going to be the pool. All right. Now, when we load this up, it should make our random password label use a random password. All right, so ready to find out? And sure enough, I skipped forward a little bit, so you don't have to watch me thumb through the book, but it is showing us aliens inside of there. Now remember, if we go back to the menu now, and then we use the continue button, it'll send us right back to that page, and you can see we've now got a new random word in there, and then of course it'll keep doing that as many times as we load up the page. So we want people to now retype this word, which is going to be spaceship, and we have to hook up the functionality for these buttons, and I'm not going to do all that live because it does take a while to put a button down here for every single button, but I'll at least get it set up here and just skip a little forward in time. So go back over here to your keyboard page, and let's fold this down, and what we want to do is drag out a color sprite here, and this is going to be, what do I got that over? The Q button. All right, so let's put in here Q button. Remember, this is a sprite that we want to interact with, so we do have to call it element. There we go. And let's go ahead and attach this to the keyboard, and that way when we copy this for other buttons, it's going to stay affixed to it. So now if I were to move around the keyboard, the keyboard, it's going to take that with it, and it also means that you could kind of slide this in the beginning of the scene, just using one of your SK actions set up through the timeline. Give it a slick little effect, and then let's put this at a position of 10, so it's clearly a bit higher than our keyboard, although it really shouldn't matter. And then let's make it the opacity set down to nothing at all. All right, so then over in our property list, let's unfold our elements. Let me fold these guys back up so it's a little bit prettier. And we're going to put in here a Q button. This is of course going to be a dictionary, and let's put in here a touch up event dictionary, so we'll make people touch up after pressing down. Oh, I don't know, it could go either way. And then what we're going to do is use a new property that I added in just last night because I realized, hey, wait, if I want to do this, I don't I don't have the properties in here to make it possible. So there's a little bit of new stuff coming, and if you are watching this and you haven't updated the kit to 1.12, you can check inside of here. Then be sure to do that. And here is that property. You have to remember what it is. It's add string values, which essentially is just going to take an existing string and add to it. So, for example, you could say, you could make a combination QQQ or something like that. And let's also put in here another option, which is going to be output values, which we haven't, or output value, which we haven't actually talked about yet. But you can output out a saved variable if you just kind of want to see it in the output window over here and not worry about what's going on otherwise in the kit. So let's put in here password attempt. And if you remember, of course, that's oops. Oh, well, we haven't actually set that yet. What we should do is clear that out at the beginning. So, you know, over here we set a random password, but you know, these are all saved values that are saved in the NS user defaults. So if you had previously loaded up the page, you definitely want to clear out what your previous password attempt was. So fold that back up, and then let's put in here a new option, which is going to be clear values, which I don't think we've actually talked about yet, but that completely clears out the saved value for it. So it doesn't set it to 0 or something like that. It just wipes it on out. Okay, so that'll be a nice fresh clean variable for us, and then every time we touch down, it's going to output out whatever that password attempt was. And then for our add string values, what we want to do is, of course, to hit the little plus sign over here and put in here password attempt. It's going to be the first part, and then what we want to add to it. So this is the Q button, so we're just going to put in there Q, and we're basically just going to do the same thing for every single button that we got. But for testing purposes for right now, we can at least mash that Q button. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's give it a shot. I'm going to press down over here, and sure enough, it's showing me Q. That's a good sign. And let's do it again. Q, 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 Q. And you'll notice down here in the output window, it's again showing me the same exact thing. So again, this is you don't have to do this for this example because we're obviously, you know, getting the correct feedback over here in the actual scene. But if you were just kind of testing some things out and you wanted to, if you're curious what the value of a saved variable was, that's all you got to do. Okay, so now begins the long, tedious task of copying and pasting all those other buttons down inside of here. And I think I just realized I might have to do all that again. I had this all set up, and then to teach the lesson, I wiped out the keyboard. Anyway, well, okay, so I'm going to have to pause for a bit and set this whole thing up. Of course, that also means, you know, putting in all of these buttons over here. But then when we come back, we will run the event listener to test to see if our password attempt actually equals this over here. And these should probably be capital letters now that I'm thinking about it. The ones that we have saved in the passwords pool. All right, so I paused the video and I did fix all these so they are all in capital letters. And then over here in our main scene, I went and I added in a button for every one of our letters and our numbers. And then if someone presses the top row or just anywhere over here, it's they're just going to be hitting a clear button, and we'll make that clear out the password attempt at that point. By the way, strange keyboard. Never seen an hack button, right? Or rub out. That's an interesting one too. So anyway, that's all set up, and let's head back over here to the property list. Okay, so let's clean this up. I'll just show you the clear button real fast in the elements. So touch up event here is just going to be clear values, password attempt, and that's of course the same thing we had firing initially when the page loads up to clear out whatever the password attempt previously was. And then in our event listeners, that's our last little setup here. We need to match these passwords. So let's make a new group inside of here. Again, this dictionary, it has nothing to do code-wise in the kit. It's just whatever kind of internal name you want to give this. So we'll call that password match. But then inside of here, what we're going to do is put in here a new property as of build 1.12 of the kit, and this is called value match. And this is where we, in other videos, we had listen for greater than, things like that. So this is going to be a new one that's going to check to see if two saved values, essentially variables in the NS user defaults, match each other. So this is going to be a dictionary, and all we have to do inside of here is put in the two things that we want to test for. In our case, that is going to be our password attempt and our random password, right? So the two things that we set up over here, our random password and our password attempt. If those are a match, then we're going to fire some events. So events, we're going to put all these in a dictionary, and we can just put in here open page, cover. Of course, you can put in here any number of events you want. You can do something that triggers fireworks, who knows. But that'll be at least enough for now, and let's go ahead and test it on out. Okay, hit the continue button. All right, so we gotta type the word stars. So I'm gonna type in here S-T-A-R-S, and sure enough, goes on back to the cover page because that was the correct word. And obviously too, you can just keep typing in here, and let's see if we can clear it out. Yep, sure enough. I want to see it one more time. It's so beautiful, isn't it? Aliens. Oh, bye-bye. All right, so that's not only how you can make a page for kids to learn how to type stuff or spell, but it also makes for a great parental gate. And if you do have if you do make use of the in-app purchases option here in the kit, you do have to provide a parental gate, which is just something like that. It can really be anything. You could say pick out the, I don't know, third triangle for the left or something that's going to confuse kids. But if you want to kind of fancy it up a bit, a keyboard is yet another way to do that. Make them, I don't know, type a word. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. Before I go, let's talk about adding a random page button. So you can see I just duplicated out another one of our buttons here in the menu, and again the text is just enclosed inside of this. So it's a random page button, and I thought it would be fun to tinker around with just making these buttons float a little bit. So each one of them has their own oops, here it is. Their own up and down animation inside of here. Just it's a great little effect. All right, so let's take a look at that. Just remember the name of this is random page button. So if we go back over here to the property list, let's unfold our menu, and under elements you can see that we now have a random page button, and unfold that. You've got touch up events, and the only key that you need to put in here is just open random page, and then of course you want to point out the pool name of where you're storing all those string values for each one of these base names of the pages, and unfold your pools. There it is, random pages. Unfold this, and of course this has the base name of each one of your pages. So planet core, pick a ship, fly ship, tour system, maze, and then you'll just add in more of those as you add more pages. And let's see the full effects. See it in action. This there's a great series of kid books. Monkey something or other, monkey word, monkey math, and I feel like it's a very kind of fluid book in the sense that it's non-linear, and you just kind of keep going from random page to random page, but kids love it. So here we go. I'm going to click on random page, and sure enough that sends us to one of our random pages. Let's do it one more time. Boom. All right. And by the way, I think as this I get closer and closer to kind of wrapping up all the things that I want to put in here, I think this is a better title for where this section of the book would go to. So I have lots of other images and stuff like that. We can just put in here random images. Oh, it looks like I got a Z depth issue right there. Let's go ahead and well, I'll fix that on my own time.